The late summer sun baked the pavement outside the dealership, heat shimmering off the sleek hoods of a dozen polished cars that lined the lot like chrome soldiers. The glass-fronted building loomed over the rows of metal, its doors pristine, its floors spotless, and its staff ready, at least, ready for a certain kind of customer. Amira adjusted the second-hand denim purse on her shoulder and stepped inside, the cool blast of air conditioning brushing over her skin like a judgmental whisper. She paused for a moment, just past the threshold, clutching a folded envelope in her hand, her savings, every dollar she'd tucked away from babysitting, cleaning houses, and selling homemade candles over the past 3 years. She wasn't rich. Not even close. But she had come here with a dream, to buy her first car. A small one. Used, preferably. Just something to get to work, pick up groceries without walking 2 miles, and stop feeling like her life was always hanging on the mercy of borrowed rides and bus delays. The sales floor smelled faintly of leather, coffee, and cologne. She took a few tentative steps toward the reception desk, where a sharply dressed woman with a platinum blonde bob looked up from her screen. "Hi," Amira said softly. "I wanted to ask about your used cars. Something affordable. Under 5,000. The woman barely looked at her, her expression hovering somewhere between amusement and boredom. "You'll want to talk to Dean," she said, pressing a button on the phone. "Dean, floor." Within seconds, a man with slick back hair, 2 white teeth, and the swagger of someone who judged success by watch brand appeared at her side. "Looking for something economical?" he asked, his voice lined with condescension as his eyes flicked over her thrifted blouse and faded jeans. "Yes," she replied, squaring her shoulders. "I have $3,700 in cash. I'm hoping I can find something reliable." Dean laughed, a short, sharp bark that turned a few heads in the showroom. 3,700, he repeated, mock surprised. "In this market?" Amira flushed. "I know it's not much. But I've been saving for years. I just need something simple." Dean raised an eyebrow and gestured toward the far corner of the lot, like he was pointing toward a landfill. "You might find a rust bucket back there with 4 wheels. But don't expect anything that'll pass inspection. Honestly, you're better off waiting until you can afford something real." Amira's lips parted, but no sound came out. Another salesman nearby chuckled under his breath. "She probably thinks the cars clean themselves." Dean grinned. "I mean, if you're window shopping, you should have just said so. We don't usually show cars under $5,000 here, they kinda clash with the paint." Humiliation flooded her cheeks. Her fingers tightened around the envelope in her hand. Her chest felt heavy, like every insult she'd ever swallowed was weighing down her breath. "I worked hard for this money," she said quietly, voice cracking. "I just wanted a chance." Dean's face softened, but not with kindness. Pity. The kind of pity that stung worse than mockery. Before she could say another word, a voice cut through the room like a blade. "Is there a problem here?" All eyes turned to the man who had just entered. He walked with a quiet authority, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark jeans and crisp white shirt simple, but elegant. His presence shifted the atmosphere in an instant. Amira turned, and her heart caught in her throat. It was Karim, her husband. He walked straight up to her, brushed his hand gently down her arm, and looked into her eyes like she was the only person who mattered. Then, slowly, he turned to Dean. "My wife was asking about a car," he said, calm but ice-cold. "And you laughed at her?" Dean blinked, caught off guard. Well, sir, she was asking about." "Does it matter what she was asking about?" Karim interrupted. There was a long, tense silence. The air had changed. People stopped pretending not to watch. "She told me last night," Karim said, still facing Dean, "that she was going to come here today. That she was scared, but excited. That she felt proud of herself. And you treated her like she was less than nothing." Amira blinked back tears. She hadn't told him all that. She hadn't wanted to burden him. She hadn't wanted to seem weak. Dean cleared his throat, the false charm returning. Well, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Why don't I show you? No, Kareem said, cutting him off. You've shown enough. He turned to Amira. Come on. Wait, where are we going? She asked. He smiled gently. We're buying your car. But not from him. They turned and walked out, leaving a stunned silence behind them. But what happened next, no one in that dealership would forget. They didn't speak much as they left the dealership, though Amira could feel the silence between them pulsing with the things neither of them wanted to say. Her hands still shook. She tried to hide it, resting them on her lap as Kareem pulled onto the main road, his jaw clenched tighter than usual. I didn't want to bother you, she said finally. I wasn't even going to go today, but I thought, maybe, just maybe. He glanced at her briefly. You thought maybe someone would see how hard you've worked. She nodded. Kareem exhaled slowly, one hand gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. You've always had a quiet kind of strength, Amira. You don't ask for much. You carry more than anyone sees. But what happened back there? That wasn't just disrespect. That was cruelty. A lump rose in her throat. I don't care about them. You do, he said gently. And it's okay that you do. Because it should hurt. You were vulnerable, and they laughed at you. She looked out the window, blinking fast. I've been saving that money for years. Cleaning houses. Babysitting. Skipping things for myself. I just wanted a car. Nothing fancy. Just a car. That was all. Kareem didn't answer right away. He just drove. And then, without warning, he turned the car around. Where are we going? He didn't look at her. Back. What? Why? His voice was steady. Because they saw one version of you today. The one they thought they could mock. But they didn't see who you really are. And I'm going to show them. Amira's heart beat faster. Kareem, no. Please. It's not worth it. But he was already pulling into the same dealership lot. The sun hadn't moved much, just enough for the shadows to stretch a little longer. The same rows of gleaming, untouched cars stood in place. The same building. The same people inside. She felt her stomach twist as he parked. I don't want to go in there again. You don't have to, he said softly. Stay here if you want. I'll be right back. She watched him step out, straighten his shoulders, and walk through those glass doors like a man on a mission. Inside, the room went still when Kareem entered. Dean, the salesman, spotted him immediately and straightened his tie like he'd just seen a ghost. Sir, he said, forcing a thin smile. I hope there's no hard feelings from earlier. Kareem didn't smile back. What's the most expensive car on your floor? Dean blinked. Excuse me. You heard me. Well, he gestured toward the far end of the showroom, where a car sat beneath bright lights, roped off like a prize. That one. It's fully loaded. Top of the line. Just came in last week. Great, Kareem said, pulling out his phone. I'll take it. Dean laughed, nervously this time. You want to test drive it first? Talk financing. I said I'll take it, Kareem repeated, not flinching. No financing. No talking. Cash transfer. Right now. Sir, are you sure? I mean, this model is. Kareem leveled him with a look. Do you know why my wife came here today? Dean swallowed hard. I assumed she was just looking around. No. She came because she believed in herself. Because she'd worked for years to afford something that would make her life just a little bit easier. And you didn't just ignore her, you laughed at her. You made her feel small. Dean looked down. Kareem took a step forward, voice low but strong. So now, I'm going to buy the most expensive car on your lot. And you're going to walk those keys out to her. You're going to hand them to her and say thank you. Because you're not just selling a car today. You're witnessing someone's worth. Dean nodded, his face flushed. Why yes, of course. Right away. From the car, Amira saw the doors open. Dean stepped out first, his hands fidgeting, a set of keys glinting in the sun. Behind him, Kareem followed, calm, grounded, unwavering. Dean approached the passenger side and gently tapped on the window. Amira hesitated, then lowered it a few inches. He cleared his throat. Ma'am. I'm sorry for earlier. I misjudged you. I hope you'll accept these. He held out the keys. She stared at them, confused. I don't understand. Kareem leaned in from behind. It's yours, Amira. The best one they've got. No compromises. No settling. She looked from the keys to him, stunned. But, how? I've been saving too, he said softly. You weren't the only one. I just wanted you to dream first. And when I saw what they did to you, I knew exactly where that money needed to go. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't need anything else, he said. But you deserve to drive through this world like you belong. Because you do. She took the keys with trembling hands. They felt heavy. Real. Like the end of a chapter she didn't even know she'd been writing. The skies seemed to quiet as Amira stepped out of the old car and into the spotlight of the dealership lot, where heat shimmered off the pavement and eyes had begun to gather. A few other employees had trickled outside, pretending to be on break, but their curiosity betrayed them. She stood beside the sleek machine now parked front and center, shiny, towering, gleaming like a mirror held up to all her quiet years of self-denial. It was the dealership's crown jewel, and she was its unexpected new queen. She turned to Kareem. You really bought this? I did. With what money? He smiled faintly. With the same kind you used. Hard-earned. Quiet sacrifices. I've been taking extra shifts for months. Nights, weekends. Sold a few things too. I didn't tell you because I wanted this to come from you first. But when they tried to humiliate you. His voice trailed off, and for a moment, something flickered behind his eyes. Rage? Hurt? It didn't matter. What mattered was that he hadn't let it swallow him. He'd turned it into something powerful. You didn't have to do this, she whispered. I wanted to. Because every single day you've put yourself last. And I've watched the world overlook you like you weren't the brightest, fiercest person I know. By now, customers inside had begun to notice. A man in a suit stood frozen at the front desk, phone in hand. One of the mechanics peeked through the service bay door. And Dean, he stood awkwardly beside the car, keys already handed over, his lips pinched in a look of practiced humility that didn't quite reach his eyes. Amira stared at the car. Its surface reflected her image, her eyes still puffy from crying, her hair pulled back with a plain clip, her sandals worn from walking everywhere. Not someone who turned heads. Not someone who made showrooms pause. And yet here she was. Kareem opened the driver's door for her. Take it for a drive. She hesitated. Right now. Right now. Amira slid into the buttery leather seat. Everything inside was silent and still, like it was waiting to breathe life for the first time. Her fingers hovered over the steering wheel, clean, pristine, untouched. She looked up through the windshield and saw them, all of them. Watching her. The receptionist who hadn't smiled. The man who laughed. The salesman who smirked. And the women who'd walked past her without noticing a thing. And for once, she didn't shrink under their gaze. She turned the key. The engine purred to life, rich and smooth, and the sound alone felt like it filled her lungs with something new, power. Not the kind that roars, but the kind that endures. The kind that waits its turn. She backed slowly out of the parking spot, turned the wheel with the ease of someone finally in control, and circled the lot once, watching faces turn with every inch she moved. No one laughed now. No one ignored her. And when she came to a stop again in front of them all, she didn't get out right away. She rolled the window down and looked directly at Dean. "I came here hoping someone would help me," she said calmly, not shouting, but loud enough for every ear nearby. "And you treated me like I was invisible." Dean shifted uncomfortably. "But you didn't just misjudge me. You misjudged every woman who walks into a place like this without makeup, without designer shoes, without someone next to her in a suit." Kareem stepped beside the car, silent but steady. "I'm not ashamed of how I look," Amira continued, voice rising. "Or how long I saved. Or how much I struggled. That car," she pointed at the old one still sitting nearby, "got me through more storms than you ever will. And this one?" She glanced down at the luxurious interior. "This one is just the next chapter." No one spoke. And then, the unexpected happened. A young woman, maybe in her 20s, stepped out of the dealership doors holding a clipboard. One of the newer employees. She walked straight to Amira and said, "Ma'am. I just want to say I saw what they did earlier. And I'm sorry. That wasn't right." Amira looked at her, surprised. She nodded. Then another voice. From the mechanic, standing at the garage door. "Most people wouldn't have come back after that. But you did. Respect." Amira felt Kareem's hand touch her shoulder. The sun had shifted again, sliding behind a cloud, casting long shadows across the lot, but Amira stood in her own light now. She wasn't the same woman who had walked through those glass doors feeling small. She was someone else entirely, someone impossible to ignore. Later that evening, the new car sat parked in front of their modest apartment complex, its chrome glinting beneath the streetlights. It looked out of place, too perfect, too untouched, but somehow, so right. Amira sat behind the wheel for a long time before going inside. The engine was off, but she didn't want to move. She ran her fingers across the steering wheel, then leaned her head back and closed her eyes. She had spent years believing her life needed to be quiet. That her dreams had to be small, folded neatly between bills and obligations. That people like her were supposed to be grateful for almost enough. But today had cracked something open. The moment Dean handed her those keys, everything shifted. Not because of the car, though yes, it was beautiful, and powerful, and hers, but because she had been seen. Not by them, but by Kareem. By her husband. The one person who knew what she gave up, day after day, without complaint. And now, something even more remarkable had happened. She had seen herself. Inside, Kareem was washing dishes when she came in. There were still traces of oil on his knuckles from the job he'd rushed from earlier that day, and his back was sore from working doubles, but he turned to her and smiled like the world had just settled into place. She crossed the kitchen without saying a word and wrapped her arms around him from behind, her cheek against his back. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For everything you've done in silence." He dried his hands and turned around, resting his forehead against hers. "It was never about the car, Amira. It was about you finally realizing what I've always known, that you are not someone who settles. You are someone who rises." Tears welled again, but this time they came without shame. She let them fall. Let them speak for the years she spent walking everywhere, rain soaking her shoes, groceries pulling at her shoulders. The nights she counted crumpled bills under flickering kitchen lights. The times she smiled at everyone while feeling invisible in every room. She had carried it all quietly. But today, she had driven through it. Word traveled fast. By the next week, the dealership had started offering customer service training. Dean was nowhere to be seen. Rumors swirled about corporate calls and HR visits. But Amira didn't care about that. She didn't go back. She didn't need revenge. She had something better. Everywhere she went now, in that car that turned heads and changed conversations, she carried the memory of that moment. Not to show off, not to gloat, but to remind herself, I earned this. I am worth this. One afternoon, while parked at the grocery store, a woman approached her. Hey, the woman said shyly. Is that yours? Amira smiled. Yes. It is. The woman glanced back at her own beat-up car. It's beautiful. I don't think I'll ever have something like that. Amira shook her head gently. You can. Don't let anyone tell you what you're allowed to want. The woman blinked, surprised. Amira reached into her glove compartment and handed her a little folded slip of paper. On it was the name and number of a mechanic she trusted, and a simple note she'd written the night before. You are not small. Even when the world tries to make you feel that way. As the woman walked away, Amira sat back, the engine humming quietly beneath her. She realized she had become something else now, someone who made space. Not just for herself, but for others. And every time Kareem looked at her behind the wheel, he smiled like he'd known all along. Because sometimes, love doesn't show up in grand gestures or poetic speeches. Sometimes, it shows up in the silence, saving, waiting, believing. And when the world laughs at you, sometimes, it takes one person, just one, to walk in and say, you don't see her yet. But you will. And now, they all had. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you.